everyone. Good morning sa ating pong stars from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. I am April Valdez from the Science Education Institute of DOST. So, I can see familiar names po, and once again, sa ating pong mga old and new, o sa ating mga old and new na registrants, participants, welcome to our webinar entitled Whole Child Approach Integrating the 21st Century Skills and Financial Literacy to be presented by Dr. Ricky Magno of West Visayas State University. So this webinar is brought to you by the Project STAR, or the Science Teacher Academy for the Regions. And for the information of everyone, this webinar received 3 credit units from PRC. So we hope that aside from these 3 credit units, it would be really meaningful to you as an educator. So I'll turn you over to Manira for the introduction to our speaker. So Moy, take it away, Moy.
Allow me to introduce to you our speaker for today. So our speaker for today is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Education, major in General Science at West Visayas State University with postgraduate degrees, Master of Science Teaching, and Doctor of Philosophy in Science Education, both major in Chemistry at De La Salle University. So in his almost 33 years in service, he has already received several awards and recognition. Okay, so and most of the recent ones are here. So in 2019, he received the Presidential Plaque of Merit and Most Outstanding Teacher at the West Visayas State University. So he also served as the director of the Center for International Linkages and Public Information at West Visayas State University, and currently is the Dean of the College of Education, West Visayas State University. He is also the Vice President of the Philippine Association of Campus and Student Advisors, Inc. for the Visayas. And we are proud to note that he is also our star trainer since 2016 and one of our consultants to some of our projects at DOST-STI. So without further ado, let us welcome Dr. Ricky Magno from West Visayas State University to discuss whole child approach integrating 21st century skills and financial literacy. So Sir Ricky, the spotlight is yours.
Thank you very much, Munira, for that kind introduction. Wow, you really prepared a PowerPoint for that. A simple introduction will do.
Sure, sir, for you, sir, always.
Thank you very much. So good morning once again. Thank you for that kind introduction, Munira. Thank you, Miss April, LJ, and Ma'am Ruby and Ma'am Cynthia. Some of you here who participated in the previous webinar, I think I discussed about learner-centered pedagogy. And this time, I'll be talking about the whole child approach and the 21st century skills in the basic education curriculum, particularly in the senior high school. How many are senior high school teachers here? And how many are junior high school? LJ, do we have stats?
So far, wala pa po naman, sir.
Okay. So anyway, regardless of your, regardless of this, the level in the basic education, be it in the junior high school or the senior high school, I think you can relate well with the topic that I will be discussing today. Okay, for the session, at the end of the session, rather, the participants are expected to have clear understanding of the importance of developing 21st century skills and financial literacy through a whole child approach using the 7E model. And I made a revision since we have a limited time. Instead of you creating or crafting a lesson exemplar, I will just have it, I stated it this way: to gain knowledge in the development of a lesson exemplar using the 7E inquiry model, integrating the concepts of 21st century skills and financial literacy through whole child approach. Okay, so for a start, what do you see in the picture or in an illustration here? It's a typical representation of you can use, by the way, you can use the chat box for this purpose. You can interact with me using the chat box. LJ will be the one to serve as moderator there. LJ, just update me for any information that you will be getting from there.
Yes, it's a common answer, sir, that teachers daw po ang nakikita nila sa screen right now.
Okay, teachers, the typical representation of a teacher. Of course, being a teacher, we must have some, what I call this, preconceived idea, or shall we say expectations of what a learning environment should be. And when you talk about learning environment, the main focus are the learners, isn't it? So to help you get a better feel of the changes in the coming changes coming to education and learning, let's take a few minutes to have this sort of informal thought experiment that many other educators, school leaders, and parents have been participating in it. It's an exercise. It's an exercise that makes the issue of learning for our times very personal and very real. How many are married here? Or how many have nieces, nephews? Let's imagine, for example, if this is not already the case, let's imagine that you have a child, a grandchild. Yes, Mama Gi, you're raising your hand. Thank you. A niece or a nephew, a child of friends whom you love and care about deeply. And this child is just starting preschool or kindergarten this year. Then let's probably consider the following questions with them in mind. Let's start with the first. Oh, my PowerPoint does not work. Wait for a while. There. Okay. What will the world be like 20 or so years from now when your child has left school and is out in the world? You can use the chat box for your expectations. Yes, sir, LJ, can you probably read some of their expectations?
Okay, sir. So, siguro mga nagtatype pa po yung mga iba.
Yes, we'll wait for them.
Yes po, sir.
What will the world be like 20 years or so from now when your child has left school and is out in the world?
Okay, sir. We have already one answer from Sir Noel Rule. He said here, prices of goods will be drastically different from today compared to the future. And then
Okay,
Ma'am Vida, wow, Ma'am Vida Antonio, overpopulated daw po ang mangyayari. And it will be more high-tech than now, sabi naman po ni Ma'am Desirel Joy Kimot.
yes, I agree, no? Probably you are envisioning a world that is connected by technology
Yes,
and
opo.
transport specifically. Yes?
And
Then
then
what can you say
digital,
about economy by this time? As you can see, since we are facing pandemic, there is that element of uncertainty as to what will happen in the few days to come, in the next days to come rather. Okay, so each one of you must have your own answers to the first question. Let's get hold to that. Okay, we proceed to the second question. What skills will your child need in order to be successful in the world you have imagined 20 years from now? Okay, can anyone tell me what are some of the skills that you envision to your child or that your child must possess 20 years from now?
Ayan. So we have already answered, sir, from Rica Natividad, life skills. And
Yes,
then,
life skills. What else?
aside from academic and technical skills, financial skills is a must. Sabi po ni Sir Noel.
Okay, that's good. Financial
Yes.
skills. That's one thing that we have to focus as well.
Mm-mm. Some
Okay, some more
there's
answers there.
critical thinking skills, technological skills, creativity, and
Yes,
collaboration,
critical
perhaps from
thinking
the 21st century
and
skills.
any. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's proceed to the third question. The third question says, what were the conditions that made your high performance learning experiences so powerful? Okay, what were the conditions that made your high performance learning experiences so powerful? Again, you can share through the use of our chat box. Sir LJ?
Ayan, may pumasok pa po from Ma'am Elise Macagne. Sabi po niya, productive struggle.
Wow, I like the term productive struggle. Yeah, we're struggling to come up with our best as well, no? What do you call that? We work for our utmost productivity. Yes, I agree. Some more answers?
So far, wala pa po naman, sir, na pumapasok.
Okay, in the meantime, I'll proceed.
Ayan, meron po.
Yes.
From Ma'am Melody Hera, challenging situations where we tend to adapt.
Okay,
Like,
like?
meron po dito from Sir Aaron, unexpected scenarios like pandemic,
That's right.
working under pressure, and sabi po ni Sir Noel, meron
Yeah.
ba po? Real life examples and situations that students get opportunity to be in the situation and decided what they would do otherwise.
Yes, I agree. Okay. So far you have a clear picture of your answers to questions 1, 2, and 3. And let's proceed to the fourth one. What would learning be like if it were designed around your answers to the first three questions? What would learning be like? So in other words, we are going to design learning activities that would cater to your answers in those three questions that you have mentioned. What do you think are the implications if we do or we design our learning activities that way?
Sabi po dito, holistic learning, sir. Yeah, it
Yes.
would be very holistic indeed.
Okay. Some more? Anything else?
Parang ano po, it's a common answer from the participants.
Yes. In short,
Holistic learning.
yeah. So relative to these questions now, I just would like to stress here or emphasize that if you design learning activities based on your perceptions in those three questions, I think you are really coming up with a very collective sketch of a blueprint of the future of learning. So probably others might say that's too idealistic. Yes, but that's the way things are expected. Although there are times wherein we may not be able to attain such, but at least there is something that would motivate us to come up with our or in order to accomplish or reach our goals, right? So you are making a blueprint of an ideal learning condition that your child would be able to experience in the near future. Okay. So today I will be tackling about the teaching of senior high school courses or junior high school courses in using the whole child approach and integrating the development of the 21st century skills and financial literacy following the 7E model. Okay, what are some of the keywords that you might generate from this? Definitely, how do you teach science or math, depending on your major? How do you teach science or math? Well, I have to be biased with science because I'm a science major. I'll use the context of science in my discussion as well as math. Okay. Another thing would probably be what are the senior high school courses that need integration of this concept. And you also have the whole child approach. Have you heard of the whole child approach? Anyone? Does anyone here, anyone who's familiar with the whole child approach? Is this the first time that you encountered the term whole child approach? You might say, sir, why is there such a thing as half child approach or three-fourths child approach? We have to consider, we have to view a learner in the totality of that learner. I mean, it should be treated in that context, the whole child approach. Well, some of you may not be familiar. Well, I'll be discussing this in a few minutes. Then we also have the so-called 21st century skills. I think at the onset of the 21st century, a lot of trainings have been conducted, particularly in the DepEd, and I was involved also, specifically the training of K to 12 teachers from grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I am happy to note that I was able to be part of the training as the trainer for those grade levels. So you're familiar with the 21st century skills being advocated in that curriculum. And also something that we have to focus as well, financial literacy. Even as teachers, some of us may not be that financially literate. Do you agree? Sometimes it's very hard to meet both ends, right? With the meager income that we are receiving. So it's the main thing here is it lies on one's skill in budgeting. That is an indicator of being financially literate. Another thing is, of course, the 7E model. Most of the DepEd schools now are adopting the 5E model by BIB. Are you familiar with that? In fact, the DOST, the project start through the initiative of DOST Director Dr. Biu, we were able to train teachers in the whole Philippines using the inquiry-based approach. We have this 5E and the 7E model. So we will be using all this. We will be integrating each of this later. Okay, so let's start with this. Are you still familiar with the 4 peaks in one? Are you familiar with the 4 peaks in one? Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the apps that I got hooked into when it first came out. Are you familiar with this? We have 4 sets of pictures here. The first, you have here a table, a gathering of people, one table with a big question mark. And then we have here a cycle that says ask, investigate, create, discuss, reflect. And here, what are these people? Who are they? Who are they? And what must be their task there? What are they doing? And here, of course, every science teacher in the DepEd is familiar with this activity. What do we do during this time? This is during our science investigatory project. So what common word would illustrate all these 4 pictures? What do you think? In the Senate, what do they do? In the Senate, what do they do? Anyone? You can use the chat box for your answer, please. Two,
May,
four, six, seven. It's a 7-letter word.
may mga sumagot na po, sir. Ang hula po nila ay meeting, discussion,
Meeting,
investigators, inquiry,
meeting, yes,
questioning, brainstorm, ano pa ba?
brainstorm.
Collaborate,
Uh,
hearing.
what? Okay, hearing. What? Yeah, yeah. What do you call that hearing in the Senate? What term do they usually use? Senate starts with letter I. Senate. Inquiry,
Yeah,
isn't it?
inquiry. Yes
So
po.
this is an inquiry model, right? And in doing science investigator project, you employ your inquiry method there. Okay, that's the common word that would describe these four P's. Okay, so let's start first with the teaching of science. And usually we use or we teach science as what call this? Using the inquiry-based approach. Okay, let's take a closer look of the so-called K-12 science curriculum. Our science curriculum consists of the following: the curriculum goals, the learning content, the teaching approaches, and assessment. Okay, for the curriculum goals, I think everything here can be found in your respective curriculum guide. Do you have a copy of your curriculum guide for junior high school and senior high school? Let's revisit that curriculum guide. Okay, so in the K to 12 um, curriculum, the K to 12 curriculum envisions the development of scientifically, technologically, and environmentally literate and productive members of the society who are critical problem solvers, responsible stewards of nature, innovative and creative citizens, informed decision makers, and effective communicators. Okay, these are our science curriculum goals. Here is the framework of that curriculum goal. We are using here the different strategies like the multidisciplinary or multi or interdisciplinary approach, the STS, problem or issue-based learning, inquiry-based, etc. And we use or we make use of these strategies in order for us to have the following goals in order to attain the goals of that of being scientifically, technologically, and we'd like to stress also the third component, which is environmentally literate. Okay, that's our main goal. So before we reach this goal, that before we attain this status, of course, we need to employ certain skills, like the 21st century skills, the critical thinking, creative problem solver, etc., etc. And we have the following domains of science here: performing scientific processes and skills, understanding and applying scientific knowledge, and developing and demonstrating scientific attitudes and values. I think you are familiar with that already. So I'll proceed to the next. And of course, this is coupled with the assessment activities that you are doing, of course, with the corresponding monitoring of the learner's progress. Now we go to the different features of science curriculum. We have here six. Who are science teachers here? Probably you can relate to this. We have the following components or following features of this curriculum. It follows a spiral progression. It is learner-centered, integrative, evidence-based, culture-sensitive, and then inquiry-based. I think this was discussed also in most of the trainings, but I would like to highlight my talk on the inquiry-based approach. Okay, because when we do inquiry-based approach, we're familiar that when we do scientific inquiry, we believe that it is a diverse diverse way in which scientists study the natural world and propose explanations based on evidence gathered. So it cuts across the next goal or feature here, which is evidence-based. So in science, of course, we conclude something if we have evidence or we have proofs to support our claim. Okay, and also scientific inquiry are activities of students in which they develop knowledge and understanding of scientific ideas, as well as an understanding of how scientists study the natural world. Okay, and well, when we do inquiry, let us not forget the essential characteristics. Essential characteristics would include the following questions. Isn't it that we always start with the question? before a solution is being developed, we need to have the question or the problem first. Okay? We need to have questions that can be answered also in scientific way. Then we gather evidence to answer the question. But of course, when we gather evidence, we gather in such a way that it is in line or it is in accordance with our temporary solution to the problem, or you call that hypothesis, our intellectual guess, I suppose. And then we follow it up with an explanation to answer the question based on the evidence collected. And then you evaluate your explanation based on the scientific knowledge. And eventually, you should not stop there in simply evaluating what you have found out. The more important thing is you communicate and justify also your proposed explanation. What is the purpose? So that others might be informed as well. So this is sharing of ideas. Okay? Now, why inquiry-based learning? And why are we focusing so much on IBL? Why are we focusing so much on IBL? Well, of course, it is mandated by the law. What law mandates the use of inquiry-based learning as one of our approaches? What law? Can anyone share in the chat box? Anyone? Based on the framework that I have shown earlier, you have seen there that inquiry base is being used as one of the strategies, right? So what is that law that supports the implementation of IBL in our curriculum? Anyone is familiar with this? Anyone is familiar? Yes, Sir LJ?
Wala pa pong sumasagot, sir.
Oh, I'll review. Let's review the Republic Act. This is your Republic Act 1053 or the Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum Act of 2013. So this serves as our legal basis why we are using inquiry-based approach in our teaching. But we should not limit only our approaches to inquiry-based teaching. There are other strategies that we can use. So it takes an extra skill on the part of the teacher to identify what strategy is appropriate to a certain topic or certain learning objectives. Okay? Then, is it being implemented? Is IBL being implemented? Yes, I believe so. So in our region, for example, we have Regional Memo number 11, series of 2015, and Regional Memo number 233, series of 2016. That is also the support to the DOST-SCI Project STAR. Actually, we already implemented the IBL in the entire country. Am I correct, Sir LJ, Miss April? Have we conducted in the entire Philippines?
Yes po, sir.
Yes, DOST is doing its best as well to become part of the implementation of this new curriculum. Okay, thank you to our partner institution, the DOST. Okay, and also IBL develops scientific attitudes and values. What are these? As indicated in the so-called domains. Okay, one of the domains is scientific attitudes and values. These are the attitude on curiosity, creativity, critical thinking, respect for evidence, honesty, objectivity, and open-mindedness, among others. Okay, and lastly, is IBL aligned with the K12 goals? Is it aligned? Our purpose of using IBL is to inquire. We ask questions, we gather data, we provide explanation, and then we evaluate our explanations, and then eventually share that to other people. Okay? Is it aligned then? Yes, because in doing so, we are, we are developing learners to become scientifically, technologically, and environmentally literate individuals. Okay? So in that case, IBL could be of help also in attaining our science curriculum goal. I am stressing that it's not only IBL that can help us. There are many other strategies. But I think science is more adept in using the inquiry-based approach. Okay, let's go to the other four pick in one. Four picks in one. Here, can you see this? Can you see the pictures? There are four pictures here. The first one, upper left, is a facade of De La Salle University. And this one is the facade also of our Quezon Hall at West Visayas State University. And then we have here the K12, the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. And what do you see here at the lower left? This is a what? A resume. What's the other term? What's the other term? Yes, sir, LJ. Are they answering?
May
So
sumagot
what do
po,
you,
sir.
ano daw?
Curriculum daw po.
Okay, correct. Curriculum. The answer is curriculum. Why is it the common word among the four picks? Yes, the curriculum that we have now is mandated under this Republic Act 1053-3. And these two facades, these are school or institutions that offer different curricula. And here is your resume. The other term for this is what is that? CV? Yes, so one word is curriculum. Okay, therefore, what is our present senior high school curriculum and where we can anchor the concept of whole child approach? So just a review under the STEM, we have the following core subjects, etc. I will not be discussing much of this. This is an example of a senior high school curriculum. Then we also have those subjects, general physics, general biology, etc., etc. Okay. Now, let's factor in the so-called whole child. Okay, what to you is a whole child approach? Okay, the whole child approach is a concept derived from the theories of holistic growth and learning pedagogy and application of methodologies that aim to transform young learners, shaping their academic experiences into opportunities for lifelong development and success. Lifelong development and success. As Dewey said, no, what the best and wisest parent wants for his own child, that must the community want for all its children. The whole child approach was launched in 2007 by the ASCD's Whole Child Initiative, which is an effort to change the conversation about education from a focus on narrowly defined academic achievement to one that promises or that one that promotes the long-term development and success of children. And we are familiar with the whole child tenets. The first, there are five of them actually. The first one is a whole child is healthy. A whole child is healthy. I think everyone will agree. How will learning take place if the learners are challenged as far as their health is concerned, right? Well, we believe, or there are research rather, research confirms no, that students do better in school when they are emotionally and physically healthy. They miss fewer classes, are less likely to engage in risky or antisocial behavior, concentrate more, and achieve higher test scores. Unfortunately, too many students go to class and less than optimal health. What's the status of your students' health? Nowadays, one important thing that we have to deal also is the mental health of our students, right? With this pandemic, and we are all shocked. And there was a change in the teaching modality from face to face. We are now doing the flexible learning mode. Others are employing the modular approach. Others are using the online approach. Either ways, it has an impact to our learners. Okay? We have several cases that students quit because they cannot cope with the demands of that new modality. So that's one way also that we have to focus the mental health as well of our learners. Schools and communities committed to educating the whole child create an environment that promotes the learning and practice of healthy lifestyles. This includes healthy menus at school. That's why in the DepEd, junk foods are prohibited now, right? Junk foods, soft drinks. Okay. Healthy menus in school. Regular recess, physical and health education. School counseling is also integrated and intramural programs or sports fest activities. Schools and communities collaborate to increase access to health care for children and their families. Now, what could be an indicator that our school is observing this tenet of the whole child approach, that of a whole child is healthy? How do you manifest this in school? Well, probably a good indicator would be our school health education curriculum and instruction must support and reinforce the health and well-being of each student by addressing physical, mental, emotional, and social dimensions of health. I think that's the best indicator that we can really say the school is supporting that particular tenet of a whole child approach. Okay? The number one is a whole child is healthy. Number two, a whole child is safe. Okay, big word. How safe is safe as far as our children is concerned? When they go to school, remember they are under the care of their respective teachers. Of course, some of you might be questioning, are our children safe when we bring them to school? Okay, feeling safe at school, of course, translates into higher academic achievement, increased student well-being, and greater engagement. Children who don't feel safe obviously cannot concentrate on their studies, especially if there are bullies around. They cannot connect with their classmates or don't go to school at all, right? Is bullying a problem in your respective institutions? Can you share your thoughts in our chat box? Does bullying exist in your school before this pandemic? And if ever it does exist in your school, what does the school do to stop bullying? Are there programs that would really identify the bullies and do some reinforcement in such a way that there will be modification in their attitudes? Well, those are some of the indicators that we have to observe, no? Schools and communities committed to educating the whole child work together to ensure the physical, social, emotional, and academic safety and security of students and adults. They must, take note, I'd like to stress this, they must consistently assess comprehensive safety issues to foster effective conditions for learning. And the best indicator that I can probably share with you is our school must uphold, or our school rather, upholds social justice and equity concepts and practices mutual respect for individual differences at all levels of school interactions, student to student, adult to student, and adult to adult. In other words, all members of that particular school community must adhere to to the so-called respect for individual differences. Is this indicator evident in your respective school? That's something that you have to answer or something to reflect. Is it evident in your school? Okay, it is you who knows the real scenario in your respective institutions. Now we go to the next one. The third tenet is a whole child is engaged. To learn at their best, students must be engaged and motivated. Substantial research shows that students who feel both valued by adults and a part of their schools perform better academically and also have more positive social attitudes, values, and behavior. Plus, they are less likely to engage in drug use, violence, or sexual activity. And schools rather and communities committed to educating the whole child engage students in the learning process and provide opportunities that connect them to the community. Okay, and our indicator probably is that our school uses curriculum related experiences such as field trips and outreach projects to complement and extend our curriculum and instruction. Well, of course, when you do the so-called field trips and outreach projects, you have to consider a lot of things. Always consider a lot of things there because it is always the safety of our students that will be our priority. Okay. Now, a whole child is supported. How do you manifest your support to your child? Or how does a school manifest the support to every learner? Okay, they can manifest by selecting science content and adapt and design curricula to meet the interests, knowledge, understanding, abilities, and experiences of students. Can you recall your question earlier? Question 1, 2, 3. I think this is now an answer. We are now laying down some mechanism in order for us to attain our probably perceptions or expectations to every school community or learning environment. Then a whole child is supported also by focusing and supporting inquiries while interacting with students and selecting teaching and assessment strategies that support the development of student understanding and nurture a community of science learners. More so if you are a science teacher, don't use lecture all the time. Okay? Don't use lecture all the time. You engage them as well. That is one way of showing your support by trying to consider different strategies. And lastly, or another indicator here would be for you to orchestrate a discourse among students about scientific ideas. No one is there to stop or curtail anyone's ideas. Okay, remember, it is in sharing that we generate great ideas. Okay, a whole child is supported also if you guide students in their self-assessment. Well, when you talk about assessment here, it involves your different authentic assessment. You should be there as learning facilitator to guide them. Make the available science tools, materials, media, and technological resources accessible to students. Yes, that is a sign of support. Okay, more so that science activities need equipment or facilities. Then the school must provide those needed materials. And you must display and demand respect for the diverse ideas, skills, and experiences of all students. Inclusivity. And lastly, structure and facilitate ongoing formal and informal discussion based on shared understanding of rules of scientific discourse. Those are some indicators that a whole child is supported. Let's go to the last indicator, which is a whole child is challenged. You like challenges in life? My dear teachers, do you like challenges? Do you like challenges?
Yes daw po, sir.
Yes. Okay. Because it will hone us. It will hone us holistically, right? Because we're going to test our capabilities as well. Well, in the context of a whole child is challenged, we should say, or we can say that in order, or no, in addition rather to improving students' academic performance, research also revealed that supportive schools also help prevent a host of negative consequences, including isolation, violent behavior, dropping out of school, and suicide. Central to supportive school are teachers, yeah, that is being supported, no, because when they are challenged, you as teachers are there to support them as well. Remember, in some of the schools now we have cases of suicide, right? And we teachers must be keen also, but sometimes we are not trained to identify indicators of suicidal tendencies of our learners or our um, what they call that, members of our community, right? So that is one of the challenges that our community is also facing. Now, a whole child is challenged in order to succeed in college, other post-secondary education in the workplace. Students need higher level thinking, communications, and problem-solving skills, as well as knowledge of the world and its people. Isn't it that these are the very basic, what do you call this, elements of our goals of science? Problem-solving skills, then higher order thinking, critical thinking skills, and to be a good communicators. These are all products of a curriculum that challenges students to work harder as they investigate a wide range of real world subjects. What's more, our high school graduates nowadays who pursue college must be adequately prepared. Yet, too many are taking remedial courses, which raises deep concerns about the value of their high school diplomas. I would like to explain further this particular statement. Yeah, college, high school students who are going to college, sometimes there's a mismatch with the strand that they took in the senior high school. I just would like to share this experience. Huh? There are some students of ours in our university who ventured into nursing or science and math related courses which require preparation in those subjects during the senior high school. But unfortunately, their competencies are not actually they matched with the demands of the courses that they have. So we offer them remedial classes or bridging program. So in your case, please help also the tertiary institutions that your senior high school learners or students must choose the right courses relative to their preparation. Okay, because consequently, if they will not follow, they will be in a very challenging situation when they go to college. Okay, thus the 21st century skills are likewise needed. So you're familiar with this, the 21st century skills, and the 21st century skills, I think a lot of you have been trained already, but let me just have a short review of the 21st century skills. This refers to a broad set of knowledge, skills, work habits, and character traits that are believed by educators, school reformers, college professors, employers, and others to be critically important to success in today's world, particularly in collegiate programs and contemporary careers and workplaces. Generally speaking, the 21st century skills can be applied in all academic subject areas and in all career and civic settings throughout a student's life. Okay? So this is a unified vision of for learning to ensure student success in a world where challenge is constant and learning never stops. Okay. Then we have some specific hard skills and mastering particular skill sets with a focus on digital literacy are increasingly in high demand. Therefore, we integrate it there, information, media, and technology skill. Another one is people skills that involve interaction, collaboration, and managing others are increasingly important. Skills that enable people to be flexible and adaptable in different roles or in different fields, those that involve processing information and managing people more than manipulating equipment in an office or a factory are in greater demand as well. These are the so-called life skills, life and career skills. Okay? So in terms of the content, no? In terms of the content rather, or the classification, the skills have been grouped into three main areas. We have the learning and innovation skills. That would include your forces, the critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity. We did this in our training during our K-12, the learning and innovation skills. And also we have the digital literacy skills, which include information literacy, media literacy, information and communication technologies literacy. And the third category is your life and career skills, which includes flexibility, adaptability, initiative, self-direction, social and cross-cultural interaction, productivity, and accountability. So these are the three main categories of our 21st century skills, under which, of course, are the key subjects that are considered to be the 21st century themes. Okay, we have the English or language. Okay, I'll just have a run through of this. Then we have the global awareness, health literacy. Then we have creativity and innovation, critical thinking, then information literacy, and flexibility and adaptability. Okay, those are our 21st century skills. Now, my question is, why do we have to adopt this 21st century framework? Anyone? Why do we have to adopt the 21st century framework? In here, okay, I'd like to present to you some stats. 90% of the graduate recruiters cited 21st century skills as among the three most important factors in hiring decisions. Okay, they are really after for those job applicants who can model or who can, yes, who can model or who possess rather those 21st century skills. Okay, and only 11% of the employers think that educational institutions are effectively preparing students for work. Wow, that is a very disheartening fact. Only 11%, okay, of the employers think that educational institutions are effectively preparing students for work. And 96% of the chief academic officers believe they are equipping their students for future employment. Is there a mismatch or is there a gap between these two? The chief academic officers would believe, 96% of them, they are equipping their students for future employment. However, some employers, only 11% of them believe so. There's a contradiction with what the academicians are claiming and what the employers are saying. Okay, so I would like to share with you also the skills that are most in demand in the future. Okay, the skills, categories of skills rather, that are in demand in the future. The first is teaching and learning of oneself and others. Teaching does not involve only teaching others, but we should teach ourselves as well. That's one. Number one, that's the number one category actually. In other words, make yourselves teachable. Make yourselves open to new learning. Make yourselves, in other words, be open minded. And number two category, the number two category is that understanding systems, whether those be of human relationships or the interface between human and machine. So, in other words, your ability to deal with machines as well as your fellow individuals. Okay, skills. Nowadays, when there was a shift of teaching modality, the IT people are in demand. Do you agree? IT people are in demand because they are the people who have expertise as far as machines or gadgets are concerned. So their skills are needed. Now, what if you equip yourselves as well with those uh, what you call this, with those of the IT people? Well, that would be more, you become more employable and you become more attractive to the employers. And lastly, let's not forget the third category, creativity. Yes, creativity such as originality and the ability to generate ideas. The ability to generate ideas. In other words, don't be a copycat. Innovate. Create something new. Okay? That would be a desirable skill that our employers are looking for our graduates. Okay. Then we have here what makes us employable. Actually, it is divided into two categories. Our competencies, the productivity competencies and transitional competencies. These productivity competencies include skills, knowledge, and attributes that make the individuals productive in the workplace, while the transitional competencies enable individuals to secure employment and make progress in employment. So, in other words, don't stop being hired. You have to do your best. You have to exude progress also while you are being employed. And under this category of productivity, we have the first three. The core academic competencies. This is rather a solid foundation of literacy, numeracy, and digital fluency uh, offered by our academic institutions. Obviously, this is for our formal training. And another skill would be occupational competencies. Occupational competencies, those are equally as important as traditional core academic skills. So these two are just, what do you call this? Complementary to each other. These are skills related to jobs. Okay, you want to go to teaching, then you must know how to talk. Or you want to go to teaching, then you must know how to create or craft your own lesson plan and inspire your students as well. And the third one, under productivity competencies, is personal and social capabilities. Are you a people-oriented type? Or are you the kind that you shy away from people? Remember Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences? We have their interpersonal and intrapersonal skills, our ability to interact with our own selves and that of others. Okay? This is known as the soft skills, 21st century skills or the transferable skills. Okay. And for our transitional competencies, these are skills learners need to transition and transfer what they do in school, higher education, and the experience they have at work to their future. In other words, ito yung baon-baon ng mga students when they are employed. So what are they equipped with? What are their tools? In short, may baon ba sila in order to accomplish such tasks or jobs? Okay? So take note, if you possess all this, or if our learners rather would be able to possess all this productivity and transitional competencies, then there's no reason why they cannot be employed. This is a typical site. No, you visit this if you want to know the skills of the future. Okay, try to log in the futureskillsperson.com. Okay, you enter, you create your name there, and it's an interesting site. No, it will give you the skills suited to you. Here, for example, in the year 2023, I will be 60. So, what are the skills that I need to? What are the skills that would prepare you most for your job in 2030? You must have fluency of ideas, systems, evaluation, education, and training. What do this mean? Okay, they have some what you call this explanations there, like this one: fluency of ideas, the ability to come up with a number of ideas, the systems evaluation, education, and training. This is different from person to person. You encode first your age, your hypothetical age, or your skills, your initial skills, and then that will tell you what are the skills that are needed in that particular year. I think you will enjoy also if you are going to go to this site, no? It's futureskillspearson.com. The site is there on top. You can see it there. You just simply log into that and you'll be able to have a glimpse of the skills at your certain age. So if you are in your 20s now, what will be the skills that you need in your 40s or in your 60s? Try later after this workshop or after this webinar. Okay, so this will give you an analysis. No, analysis of the data predicts a high 73.4% chance that this, or rather of these workers experiencing growth. The chance of uncertainty is 26.96, and the chance of these workers shrinking is 0.0. Okay, that is if you engage in education, training, and library, because this is a what call that cyclical or I suppose there's a cycle, no? If you engage in education, like right now at this pandemic, others are saying that those engaged or those people involved in academe have stable jobs, particularly if you are part of the government. Others have been laid off, a lot of work, or a lot of people lost their jobs because of the pandemic. But education, I think, would certainly last. Okay, we cannot disregard the fact that teachers are really needed in our are needed by our learners, but also some there are some advocates of artificial intelligence. Let us be cautious about this. As teachers, we need to equip ourselves as well with the latest technology in order for us to cope with the demands of our responsibilities. Take note of that. But of course, computers will never take place. The will never what do you call that replace human teachers. Now we go to financial literacy, one of the skills that is highlighted also. When you talk of financial literacy, it is the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal, financial management, budgeting, and investing. Financial literacy is the foundation of your relationship with money, and it is a lifelong journey of learning. Okay? How many of you here can honestly say that you are financially literate at this stage of your life? What? Okay, so kindly take notes, Sir LJ. If there are people who answered, if they are what you call financially literate, can anyone honestly claim that he or she is financially literate?
So far, sir, wala pa pong sumasagot sa ating chat box.
Oh, in other words, Majority are not financially literate. How about you, LJ? Are you financially literate?
Sort of, sir. Siguro.
Yes. Imagine, no? Remember, rather, some of our financial advisors would tell us if you receive your salary, certain percentage of that salary must go to the saving. Others would tell you, save first and spend the rest. It's not the other way around. Others are spending, and what is left, that is something that they have to save. No. Okay? I learned that from a financial advisor. You have to see to it that every payday or every payday, you must allot certain amount for your savings. You save certain amount and then allot the remaining part for expenditures. Okay, can you just imagine if you have been staying in your employment for more than 30 years? By this time, you must have that savings that you're wishing for, or you are what call that? You look forward when you retire. Okay. So, what is financial literacy for the youth? This is actually advocated by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And financial literacy, as used in PISA, is knowledge and understanding of financial concepts, risks, and the skills, motivation, and confidence to apply such knowledge and understanding in order to make effective decisions across a range of financial contexts, to improve the financial well-being of individuals and society, and to enable participation in economic life. Very good, LJ. No, you can honestly claim that you are financially literate. That's great. At such a young age, you are already modeling such literacy. I hope others will follow through as well. Now, here are the core competencies for you to have an idea on what financial literacy is all about. It has something to do with money and transactions. What to you is money? What to you is money? And how do you do transactions? Then, planning and managing your finances. Are you doing that? Of course, you acknowledge also the risk and reward associated with your finances. And lastly, you must have a clear picture of your financial landscape. Say, for example, you want to buy a house and lot. So you project something. You project something. What should you do? What plans should you undertake? Okay, and what are the risks involved also in case you do this or you execute this plan? Okay, the first one is money and transactions. This content area incorporates the different forms and purposes of money, ways of paying and receiving money, income, national and foreign currency, and making and monitoring transactions. It recognizes that financial transactions may incur a cost and that some options such as borrowing money may not be universally available. But when you borrow, no, a good borrower must be a good. You continue the line. A good borrower must be a good, Sir LJ?
I'm not sure of the right term, sir. Saver po.
Payer.
Ha?
Good payor.
Yes. O hindi yung ano I saw some memes in the Facebook, pag nangutang ang galing-galing. Pag magsingilan, ano na? Something like that. You have to be responsible. That's financial literacy. You are actually you have nothing to vouch there but your self-integrity, your character. When you when you borrow, you must know how to pay. You must know how to return it. Okay, because as what the word said, borrowed money should be returned. Okay, so remember our mantra: if you borrowed something, you must return it. If you open something, know how to close it. Okay. Next, planning and managing finances. Okay, planning. This content area reflects the importance of planning and managing income and wealth over the short and long-term plans. Now, for youth, for example, our learners, we need to emphasize to them that, or for youth rather, for our students or learners, it should particularly reflect the process of managing, planning, and monitoring income, expenses, and understanding ways of enhancing wealth and financial well-being. In this case, probably I should say, our learners typically are dependent on their parents. However, there are parents who give them certain money for their allowances, and you, for example, you emphasize, we as teachers rather, we need to emphasize to our students also, do we need to spend every allowance that is given to us? Let's say, for example, at the end of the week, how much can we receive, or how much can you keep, or how much can you save? Okay, at such a young age, you really have to encourage the people to really, or your learners to really save. No? Okay, number on the next competency is the risks and reward. The youth nowadays need to understand ways of protecting themselves from the risk of losing essential income or property, as well as the risk inherent in certain financial products such as credit agreements and variable interest rates or investment products. That is the youth that we are referring here are generally the fresh grad who are employed. So they must be aware of this also, no? The risk and the reward involved in every transaction. This content area, therefore, includes knowledge of the types of products that may help people to protect themselves from the consequences of negative outcomes, okay, such as insurance and savings, assessing the level of risk and reward related to different products, purchases, behaviors, or external factors. How many of you here are actively engaged on online shopping? Well, I should say a lot. Oh, please. Are you actively engaged in online shopping? What are you really shopping? Are those things that you are buying essential? Are they essential? Essential to your, probably at this time of pandemic, your existence? Well, we need to prioritize now. So things that are not needed, well, we can probably set aside. So, in other words, I'd like to borrow the line again of GMA and Pia Wurzbach. Think before you click. Okay? Purchasing is just a click away, right? So you have to think before you click. That's it. And lastly, financial landscape. The financial landscape relates to the characteristics and features of financial world. It covers knowing the rights and responsibilities of consumers in the financial marketplace, taking into account financial regulation and financial consumer protection. Okay? So it also focuses on typical features of the general financial environment, such as recognizing the implications of financial contracts and understanding changes in certain external factors such as interest rates, inflation, taxation, or welfare benefits that can impact individuals, households, and or society. Okay? So how many of these competencies are you aware of as far as your financial literacy is concerned? Of course, before we impose this to our learners or students, we impose it first to ourselves. We teachers must also be guided by the core competencies of financial literacy. Okay? Financial literacy. So it's a question. Which of the four do you possess at this time? If you possess all of them, if you have positive outlook for all of this, then I can say, we can totally claim that you are financially literate. Okay, next we go to this 4 picks in one. What do you think is this? Pictures, we have, what is this? The sun, ano na, moon, earth, and then we have here inquiry learning cycle. And we have here also another representation, and these people, what do you call them? In singular form na lang.
Model daw po, sir.
Okay, correct. They are model. Now, in relation to our topic, what model are we going to use? I think you are familiar with the 5E or the 7E model. But for the purposes of this discussion, I am using the 7E model. You may use the 5E model. It depends on the model that your school is using. So in the 7E model, it is a learning cycle model, which is learner-centered. This model consists of stages of activities organized in such a way that students can master the competencies that must be achieved in learning by playing an active role. Take note, learning by playing an active role. Well, of course, you're familiar with the different stages. They are elicit, engage, explore, explain, elaborate, extend, and evaluate. But where did this model, the 7E model, come from? Actually, it was derived from the 5E model of Bybee. In 1997, Bybee came up with the 5E model of inquiry, which includes engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. What did Eisencraft in 2003 do is to add additional components, which are the elicit and the extend. These two are the additional features of the 7E model. Okay, for the 5E model, we have the engage stage. Okay, we have the following indicators there. Serves as an interest approach or motivator. Sometimes in your lesson planning, you call this your motivation. Motivation. Then you motivate by giving questions, probably by giving them challenging questions, showing something, a video or anything. Then prior knowledge is activated and it builds curiosity. It provides direction of your lesson. Once you have aroused the curiosity of your learners, that's the beginning. In other words, they get hooked on your proposed activities. The number one challenge there is to hook their attention. In other words, to capture their attention towards your presentation. That's it. And the second stage is explore. It provides concrete experience from which student learning and knowledge can build. It imitates guided discovery. In here, the students manipulate the materials, make discoveries, and share their findings. But the role of the teacher here is the teacher provides scaffolding. Okay, scaffolding by observing, questioning, and guiding. That's the explore stage. After which, they explain. What are the roles of the teachers and students in this stage? The students share their discoveries and explanations, while their teachers introduce relevant concepts and principles, theory and or theories. The teachers encourage students to make connections to their experiences during this phase. And both are okay. The students and teachers utilize the concept and experiences to describe and explain the phenomenon and answer the initial question. That's in the particular stage. After which we go to rather elaborate stage. In the elaborate stage, it allows students to create connections between new concepts, principles, theories, and real-world experiences by applying them to a new situation. This application of the new knowledge provides an opportunity for students to move beyond memorization. So in the elaborate stage, our target there is deeper understanding, not just rote learning. It should be deeper. Okay? Remember the theories on shallow and deep learning? So that is our intention in the elaborate stage, to have for learners to have deeper understanding of the concept. Well, in this stage, maybe small group in classroom discussions where they can share and defend their understandings and explanation. So in your class, please do not be the main source of knowledge or information. Okay? Let others talk. Let the students share what they know, what they found out, and let them interact with other members of the class. Okay, and then the evaluate, of course, you have your evaluation stage, which provides teachers an opportunity to assess students' knowledge and provide feedback on performance. Well, you apply your assessment techniques here, no, informal assessment as well as formal assessments. That's it. Those are the 5E. And an innovation in the 7E is that the addition of elicit and extend. In the addition of elicit and extend, what do they do? The proposed expansion of the 5E model does not exchange the engaged component for the illicit. Say that again, does not exchange the engaged component for the illicit. In other words, the illicit is there. The engaged is a different thing. So illicit is the preparatory stage, while engaged is something that would let your learners get involved in the process or in the activity. Okay, the engagement component is still a necessary element in good instruction. The goal is to continue to excite and interest students in whatever ways possible to identify prior conceptions. Therefore, the illicit component should stand alone as a reminder of its importance in learning and constructing meaning. Replacing elaborate and evaluate with three, elaborate, extend, and evaluate, is a way to emphasize that the transfer of learning as required in the extend phase may also be used as part of the evaluation phase. Take note of this. I like the last part. The extend phase may also be used as part of the evaluation phase in the learning cycle. Adopting a 7E model ensures that eliciting prior understandings and opportunities for transfer of learning are not omitted. Okay? And let's take note of this. Let's take note as teachers to rebalance our time between being the sage on the stage who presents, explains, and answers questions, and the guide on the side who supports students' research, discovery, and sharing of their own findings and learning projects. If at this time, if you are going to evaluate your performance as a teacher, and if you are still on this stage, meaning you are the ones, the knowledge dispenser, everything, every information comes from you, well, I think it's about time that you have to make some innovation in your style, maybe. So be more supportive this time. Let the learners be the key players, the center of every activity in the class. Remember the previous webinar that we had? Learner-centered pedagogy. Always focus on the learners. Since you focus on the learner should be the performers as well. Okay? You are there only to guide if they are on the right track. Okay? You may add information or you may correct some alternative conceptions or misconceptions. Okay? And now, the big challenge is, remember the second objective that we have? I'd like you to gain knowledge on the development of lesson plan exemplar integrating all these concepts. Take for example, we need to synthesize. We need to synthesize the topics that I just discussed, the teaching of science, the senior high school curriculum, the 21st century, the whole child approach, and financial literacy using the 7E model. Is it challenging? Earlier, you mentioned you like to be challenged, right? Challenge to be challenged in order for us to be able to be more productive. Well, I should say you may use again, you may use the 5E model or the 7E model. I'll just show you a particular lesson plan exemplar, which you may probably use in the future or in your as reference rather. In here, here's a lesson plan template. You have here the grade level, the course title, quarter, and the domain. So developer or resource person, you indicate there. The standards, competencies, and objectives. Where do you get this? The content standards, the code, competency, and performance standards are the all generated from the concept, all generated from the curriculum guide. You can get it from the curriculum guide. And okay, here, this will be the appearance of our lesson plan. You are going to have the 7E model here. Sorry, I forgot evaluate, extend, PDF. Elicit, engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate, extend. And we have here the brief description of the activity for each stage of the model. What shall you do here in the elicit stage, in the engage stage, down to the extend or evaluate. Evaluate, let's just put evaluate at the last. And here we integrate the tenets of the whole child approach, as well as the 21st century skills and financial literacy. In the 5 tenets, you may just probably color this, or you may use a blank portion and then indicate what particular tenet is being illustrated by that particular activity in the elicit stage. Okay? So here, a typical lesson plan exemplar. This is a sample lesson on intermolecular forces and liquids and solids. Obviously, this is for chemistry. I have here the grade level, the quarter. Professor Melody is the developer and I'm the resource person. The domain is intermolecular forces and liquids and solids. Okay, we have the content. We have the content standards. We have the code. We also indicate the code and the competencies that the learner should develop, as well as the performance standard required of our learners. Then what do we do? Here, let's start with the first phase. The first stage, rather, is elicit. And this is the activity that we have identified here. Model me. Structure analysis A. Student will be asked to describe the structure of compounds, etc. Water, hexane, acetone, ethanol, and glycerol. Name and molecular formula will be posted on the board. Okay, in short, with this activity as part of my elicit stage, what tenets of whole child approach is addressed? Does it address the engaged stage? If it does, you color it. In other words, that elicit stage involves students or learners to be engaged. Are they supported? Yes. Are they challenged based on that activity? Yes. And what 21st century skills and financial literacy skills are being illustrated or developed in this type of activity? Or we have critical thinking and problem solving, communication and collaboration. Did I include financial literacy here at this particular stage? No. In other words, what I have just integrated in this model in this particular stage are the 3 tenets of whole child approach and 21st century skills. That's for the elicit stage. What about the second stage? Okay, this is the activity for the engaged, but I will not discuss this in details. The first stage is unlocking of difficulties. That is, yes, that's part of the elicit stage. The engage, I mean, you engage them first by unlocking their difficulties. Okay? Then, predict stage. In the predict stage, I have this activity again. So, activity-based, these are the substances given, identify the predicted rank. They are going to rank this. What do you think is the vapor pressure? Ranking only. Which one is the highest? First, second, third, fourth, etc., etc. So in other words, you have the predicted rank. And then you answer this later. The observed rank should be answered later. In the next stage, I will be having the observe, so which is already my explore stage, in order to answer the previous question here, no, the observed rank. In the predict, this is part of my engage stage. Now I go to the explore. Okay, we will be coming up with the so-called answers to our queries. Are those ranks of ours accurate or not? So in other words, you explore. The students will explore. So as you noticed, I have colored the four tenets: safe, engaged, supported, challenged. And what are the 21st century skills that have been identified to be integrated in this activity? We have the critical thinking, problem solving, communication, collaboration, leadership and responsibility, flexibility and adaptability, initiative and self-direction. Still, at this time, I don't have financial literacy competency. Now, I'll proceed to the next stage, which is, oh, this is the activity. You're going to observe the rank there, no, of the vapor pressure and boiling point of the following substances. And the explain stage, this is where you are going to ask the students to explain what they've found out. Okay? So again, this is the activity and these are the tenets that have been addressed by this activity. And we also have the critical thinking skills there. And explain. Then elaborate. We do graphical analysis for the elaborate stage. In other words, their concept now will be illustrated through the use of graphs. Still, we only have critical thinking skills. I did not identify financial literacy there. Okay, these are some examples of the graphs that they need to interpret, application of what they have gathered in the activity earlier. There, those are some of the graphs. And I will now extend. Using the extend, I'll do active reading and writing. I'll do active reading and writing. Okay. So, in this situation, through this lesson, you understood how special water is. Looking at our need for clean water and investigate on the economic impact of poor sanitation in the Philippines. Now, these are the 5 tenets addressed by this activity. And we have the functional, or we have the so-called century skills, 21st century skills. Did I include financial literacy at this time? Why is financial literacy included there? What particular core competency of financial literacy is that? I did not identify specifically, but look at the activity. The students will be looking at our need for clean water and investigate on the economic impact of poor sanitation. So economic impact. So you're talking about our economy. So what particular financial literacy competency is addressed in this activity? Financial. The fourth one, financial landscape. Okay, you can use financial landscape here. And of course, the last stage is the traditional, the pen paper exam to cover the competencies, or you may explore other techniques of evaluating the outcomes of your activity. Then we have the critical thinking and problem solving. So as you notice, the financial literacy comes in this particular activity. Now, just a point that I'd like to stress. It is not necessarily that you have to address all the 5 tenets of the whole child approach. But if you have a way of addressing all of them, the better. So in every stage of your lesson, you just have to identify what particular tenets of whole child approach is being addressed by that activity. And in the same manner, what 21st century skills are you developing among our learners in that particular activity, and also integrate as well if there is financial literacy involvement. Okay, thank you. This is just an example of a lesson exemplar which you can probably use as reference in the future. Okay, here are the references. Now, I can honestly say that nothing is impossible regardless of the challenges that we are facing, be it pandemic or non-pandemic. we're still productive members of this of our society. So one way is we address also our learners. And going back to the 4 questions that I earlier posted, well, if you do this thing, this could be an answer also to our 4 questions. Designing a learning activity or designing learning activities that would address our ideal learning environment. So here, this is one example that using the 7E model, we can integrate the different concepts such as the teaching of science in the senior high school curriculum with the whole child approach, 21st century skills, and financial literacy. Thank you very much for listening. Okay, Sir LJ, thank you.
Thank you very much
There
po,
are
Sir Ricky, for
questions.
that very informative talk.
If
So
there
we
are
are now open po for questions.
yes,
In case you have questions, both po for the Facebook Live and Zoom participants, you may type in your comments po or questions.
Ma'am April?
Yes, Moy. Do you have a
Okay.
question?
Wala pong question. Kasi parang, I just want to say thank you to Sir Ricky. Kasi ito pong whole child approach is somewhat new to me. And parang sabi ko, bago to. Kasi as a teacher, I was a teacher before, na parang we are focusing on the development, the cognitive development of the pupils, of our students. So parang this is new because parang in a whole child approach, uh, parang binibigyan tayo na to ask ourselves if our lessons now, is it healthy for the students? Is it safe? Are they being engaged in our activities? Are they supported? And are they still challenged? Especially na nasa distance learning tayo ngayon. And I think this is very appropriate po na ma-integrate natin sa mga lessons natin. Kasi parang lahat ng aspects na kailangan ma-consider or we should take into consideration, especially sa distance learning, ay parang andito rin sa whole child approach. So parang yun po yung parang major takeaways ko po.
that's very nice. Yes, that's true. No? Thank you. Well, actually, the whole child approach is also being implemented in the Philippines. In fact, with the crafting of the new curriculum in the basic education and also that of the college, it was already integrated in the general education. So each curricula will have to address the whole child approach.
Yes po. And it is coupled with integrating the 21st century skills and plus pa po yung financial literacy, which parang ako rin guilty somehow.
We are all, not just you, sir. We are all. Sometimes we have little, no,
Ang
sometimes,
dami, ang
yeah.
dami kasing tinuhog ni Sir Ricky na for this talk. Full
Yes,
child
po.
and then integrate niya sa 21st century sa financial literacy and even the 7E model of inquiry. So yun. So do you have other questions or takeaways?
They're asking, Miss April,
Yes po.
they're asking for the PowerPoint. If we could share this to them.
Yes,
I already sent the PowerPoint to LJ.
Yes, sir. Nakuha na po namin.
You can share that to our participants.
Okay, Sir Ricky. Thank you po.
Oo.
So that's it po, and keep posted with our Facebook page for updates po sa ating next na webinar na naman. So thank you so much and stay safe everyone. Bye-bye po.